The Building Better Relationships Journal and Meditation. We created the Building Better Relationships Journal and Meditation so you can magnetize the better relationships you want and focus on the positive role that you have in creating a better life through your relationships. We are excited for you to discover the gold within you that can help you manifest the love we all crave. The Building Better Relationships Journal has coaching questions that help you listen to the truth of what you want and what helps you to be empowered in love. The Building Better Relationships meditation is designed to strengthen your heart's ability to be that change you wish to see in the world. Why not download it now and think of it as a gift to those you love? If you love journaling and meditation, this is for you. Welcome to Building Better Relationships at Home and at Work with Angela and Patti podcast. This is Patti, a leadership and work-life balance coach from Arizona, USA.
And this is Angela, love and relationship coach from Sydney, Australia. And we are building better relationships with you.
Sharing new perspectives on being heart-centered at home and at work.
So you can draw on your inner power to make your relationships and the world a better place to be around.
Hi, Patti. Good to be back with you.
You too, Angela. Thank you. So I have a question for our audience. Have you ever looked around your home or workplace and thought, what is this? Where is everyone? Why am I the only one still trying? You may be witnessing or experiencing silent quitting. So we're going to talk about what's really going on when people stop showing up. In this episode, we will explore the concept of silently quitting, both in the home and in the workplace. So, Angela, tell us a little bit about silently quitting that's been going on recently.
Yes. So I've been doing a little bit of work with some coaches in Australia, and the statistics down under, anyway, are similar globally. There's about, from Gallup research, 67%, which is about 2/3 of the workforce, are silently quitting, which means they're not even telling their employer they're going to leave the job. So what goes on in their brains, a lot of the thoughts are, I'm not interested in this job anymore. I don't care about maintaining the job. So they're already looking for other work or looking for other ways to make income, which may not be from employment. It could be investment or other ways. And another thing in the research that's also shown up in Australia is that employees, when they're going to look for other work, are really not just looking at money. They're looking at post-pandemic. A lot of the things that came up were, what am I doing with my life? Do I really want to work this hard? Do I really want to work for a company that really doesn't care about me? So some of the macro issues are really post-pandemic, and I wanted to pull some of those out to look at why is this happening in our lives collectively. Today in the podcast, we're going to look at the phenomena personally. And Patti and I will share examples for us as well. But I wanted to pull out at a larger level, personally, we're being triggered to really find out, why are we doing our lives in this way? And as a person myself, I work with people who look at the spiritual issues that come up, like what's the meaning of all this? What does this job mean in the bigger picture? With AI coming in as well, a lot of these BS jobs, they're called, in the jobs that help people to work out what to do in PR, or all of those jobs are going to be replaced in the next 5 to 10, 15 years by AI. So within us collectively, we're going through a lot of existential crisis about what's the meaning of everything that I trained for, all the industry work that I've done the last 20 to 30 years. If you're at university, you're like, maybe my job won't exist. So at the macro level, we're understanding intuitively that our jobs and our lives are going to go through enormous change. And the media is also telling us this on a consistent basis. The social media, the mainstream media are all talking about this. So internally, post-pandemic, there's been so much reprioritizing, and we're going to have to really look at the phenomena on a personal level. But as we're going to explore today, on a personal level, it is also affecting the way we approach our personal relationships and the way we approach work. So I can give people more statistics, but I think everybody's watching will have noticed this phenomena. And the question we have on the screen, have you noticed someone at work, or maybe someone in your personal relationship, someone close to you, slowly disengaging? Could they also be experiencing this phenomena of like, what's the meaning of life? If AI is going to take over everything, what's the importance of me? If someone is spending more time on social media, more time engaging with robots or AI than talking to people, then maybe that affects you too. Maybe you're feeling like you can't get what you want in your personal relationships. So today we're going to look at that in more detail. And firstly, we're going to explore what does silent quitting look like? What is it? And what does silent quitting mean to you? So, Patti, I can ask you that question actually. What does silent quitting mean to you?
It's when you've really withdrawn emotionally, avoid conversations or fulfilling obligations without connection. It's where you're just not really there. You're just going through the motions and not really engaging with what really should be going on. It's like, oh, I'm here, but I'm really not here, type of thing.
And have you noticed it in the workplace? I know you work more externally now with organisations and individuals, but what have you noticed in the people that you're interacting with?
People start not feeling like they really have a purpose or meaning in the workplace. They may feel unheard, unseen, those kind of things, to where it's like, why am I even here? Why am I even doing this job? I don't enjoy it. I don't want to do it. You get up every morning, you pull yourself out of bed, and you're trying to get yourself to where you're going into work, but what you really don't want to be there. And that's kind of sad. And people just aren't putting that effort in as much as they had in the past, possibly. They're thinking, oh, I love this job at the beginning, but now it's mundane. I'm not going anywhere. Nothing's changing. Unmotivated. They're mentally checked out. Those kind of things.
I remember once you described a situation like of sitting in the car and you're thinking, I just don't want to go into that job. And I remember it was well before the pandemic you brought up that scenario, but I thought, wow, I wonder how many, in that moment when you shared it, I wonder how many people actually have that experience. So as Patti and I are going through the different scenarios today of how people are feeling demotivated and feeling like what's the meaning of going to work, and what's the purpose of this, you can explore in your own life. Have you ever found yourself going through the motions in a relationship or at work? And so we'll talk about the personal relationships as well. I'll talk more on that later about some of the signs that I see as well. So let's look at why. Why do we silently quit? Patti, maybe you can share on that one. Why do we silently quit?
There might be unrealistic expectations at home and at work. You're avoiding a conflict. You believe that speaking up won't even matter if you speak up because nobody's listening. You just go through the motions because it's become a habit. There isn't anything motivating you to change. You may be thinking, how can I get out of here? You may feel like a caged animal. We talked about that before. So you just shut down because you think nobody cares. There may be something going on at work or at home that's making you feel like it just doesn't matter anymore. Those are some of the things of why we silently quit, and many more. There might be you recognize the signs in others. You're emotionally burned out and lack appreciation. And you're thinking, isn't there much more to life than what is going on right now with me? Your relationship may not be what you really want it to be at work. And I'll let Angela talk about home. But those kind of things where you just don't feel the urge to put in 110%. You're just doing skating by instead of putting more into the job.
And that really ties into what I shared at the beginning with that meaning and purpose. People want to feel like their work has meaning. So I believe on automation and the rise of automation in our lives, from the rise of social media as well, and the small device of the phone. One of the things I used to talk about was how when we had devices like a small phone that started to come into the relationship, there's actually quite a bit of evidence that whenever you look at the phone and you're with your partner, for example, or a loved one, their body actually feels neglected or disregarded if you're touching your phone or looking at your phone. So if you're at a restaurant and you're looking at your phone, we all know that was considered rude, but it's actually much more deeper than that with the biology of the body. If you're with someone and they're two physical bodies together and you start to look at the phone, the body of the person that sees you looking at the phone actually feels like, I'm not important. I'm not really valuable. So that device has created a whole new dynamic on so many levels in our biological social relationships. So at home in the intimate partnerships, when you have a partner that consistently, or loved ones that consistently just, they wake up in the morning and instead of engaging with you and saying good morning, they just look at their device or just ignore you. Or conversely, before you go to sleep, your partner might be looking at a device instead of holding you and talking to you. What starts to happen is biologically you start to get used to and acclimatized to switching off. And this is the thing about the silent quitting phenomenon. It's not just in the workplace, it's in our society, in our personal relationships, in our social relationships. I teach movement classes and a lot of people come into the class and I can see their bodies are shut down. they come into the space and they've got this sort of bubble around them, and they're sort of looking at the phone as well, maybe looking at any messages that they need to attend to before they can then shift their focus. I've even had students in a dance class still have their phone on, which I've found really shocking. It's a younger, more, not my age, but younger people, because they've been more acclimatized to having a device. So that's a very physical reason why people are switching off. And it also can start to change the way we start to expect. We drop our expectations of others and how they might respond to us. So one thing you mentioned, Patti, was that this is a very important one. We check out instead of talking. And I wanted to spend a moment of looking at why some of the reasons we check out. You brought a lot of reasons up in the workplace. I also feel like we check out because we feel that if I say something, it might upset the apple cart. And I'm wondering if you can share about that, like in the workplace, we, instead of having a direct communication, we think if I say this, something bad's going to happen. I can share a bunch of reasons why we do that in personal relationships. But can you share on that, Patti, why we might not have a direct conversation in the workplace?
People may feel unheard, unseen, or if they say something, they may be criticized or attacked verbally because the person that maybe they're talking to doesn't feel the same way, or they're aggressive, and that shuts people down. There may be people resentful. Relationships aren't going very good, so could possibly be hostile tension. Give you an example. Say a leader avoids giving feedback or addressing the tension, and it continues to build up. Maybe the doer in the workplace is picking up more of the workload and is getting burned out because people are silently quitting and doing the bare minimum, and avoid extra responsibilities. Team members may not even interact or talk to each other, and during a meeting, they just sit quietly because they're afraid to speak up. And they may feel that people that they're working with have emotionally checked out, and they're unmotivated or they're lazy. You can't rely on them anymore, and they're picking up the staff, and the impact of this behavior, the workload shifts unfairly to the team. Trust and moral decline happens because there's people sitting there not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and other people are taking on their workload. So those are some of the things that could happen in the workplace when people are silently quitting and doing the bare minimum just to get by.
And you mentioned two interesting roles that we play. You said the doer and the people that sort of skeet along and get away with doing at least as little as they can. I'm going to share how this is similar and related to how we operate in personal relationships. So, for example, there's the person, the doer in the family, who thinks, I do everything, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And we tend to sort of dramatize that role. I know I can do that very well in my life. I'm the one that does all of the washing up. So I use that as a combative tool or the cooking. But fortunately, also my partner does a lot of other things, so he can fight back with me. So I'm lucky in that circumstance. But how it translates to the emotional level for me is very interesting, Because one reason we check out instead of having a direct communication in personal relationships is we have this perception that the other person should understand the way I see the family dynamic or the relationship dynamic. They should see how much work I'm doing. They should know. They should behave this way. We have a picture in personal relationships, and that picture could come from childhood or some other way that you related with your mum and dad. So that picture also then you tend to tack on to every other relationship. It could be a friend, it could be a someone you cohabitate with, it could be a partner, it could be a parent or a child. And you think they should be doing this. They should understand how much I sacrifice for them. We come up with these thoughts and these pictures in our head about what the other person should be, how they should be behaving in response to what we are doing. And we have a picture of ourselves. Maybe it can be the doer or I do so much. And yeah, there are a lot of people in families that do more than others, that take on, parents, often mothers, take on a lot of the burden. But again, I know a lot of fathers and men who take on a lot of the burden as well in different ways, whether financially or at the home. So we have these ideas that others should respond to us in another way. And over time, we build up stories that they're not giving us the accolades or the appreciation or the love that we desire or the recognition. And this builds a resentment, and it builds this wrong story that the other person doesn't love us because they don't give us the accolades or the appreciation we think we need or deserve, or the recognition. They don't see us. We feel unseen. So often we get a lot of passive aggressive behavior, which may mean we just don't have the conversation because we're upset that the other person hasn't done X, Y, or Z. And we come from this old story instead of actually just saying, you know what, I don't like this. Please don't do that anymore. I want a different thing. I want a different outcome. There's a really great resource, if anyone has access to the internet, which all of you do, is nonviolent communication. It's on Wikipedia. You can look at the steps. It's actually what I do in my work a lot. And I may not have that confidence in using that, but one of the first steps is to recognize when you're actually coming from this old story instead of actually what you really want. And it's a lot of what I teach in learning how to just have the direct communication instead of coming from the shutdown and checking out behavior. So is there anything else you wanted to share about that, Patti, about why we silently quit, or how we check out of having the direct conversation?
Yeah, and sometimes you feel like, I just don't want to be here anymore. And when you start feeling like that, you're showing those signs that you don't want to be there anymore. So what can you do to bring back a little bit of joy or spark or loving your job again? Those are some things that, when you're feeling that way, why did I take the job in the first place? And sometimes it is for specific reasons. It can be for money, it can be for health insurance, it can be for I needed a job. You know, there wasn't something that really, really enticed you of wanting to be there or to learn more and to really expand yourself and feel confidence that you need to want that job in a more passionate way. So those are some things that you might want to think about. Why am I here? And really think about that, because am I making a difference? Do I have a purpose? Is this truly what I want to do? Those are some things that you can think about to help with that.
I really like that, because then you're getting out of the story and the resentment into, okay, so maybe I don't love this job, but I'm here for a purpose that suits, that fulfills a need right now. Maybe not for next year, but right now it does. And that helps you re-engage. I think that's really helpful. So we're going to share a few of the signs on a more personal level about, I wanted to share what's going on for me in this period of time, seeing that now the role of my relationships is more important for me than work at the moment. And I've had a lot of things coming up in the last 3 years around my relationships, about reorganizing how much time I put towards relationships. And also in my personal relationship with my partner, we've also had a discussion about that. And I wanted to share the gift of checking out, of silently quitting, and what it can do to help get to some deeper stuff. If any of you are looking at that go-to response you might have when you check out is a freeze response or a shutdown response, because it's very normal to check out from having a direct conversation in personal relationships, because we fear we're going to say something that might trigger the partner, it might upset the partner. And we also have that picture that I described of how you think your partner might think or your family member might think. So you're too scared to have the conversation. And I wanted to share that what's happening for me is this really important thing that's happening in terms of not shutting down and actually being able to speak up in my personal relationships. So one of the things that can come from this period of, if you are experiencing like you're passively withdrawing from a relationship, is touching on what you shared, Patti, about what was the purpose of the relationship. I've learned now that in my relationship, instead of shutting down, one of the gifts of recognizing when I'm in shutdown is to say, hang on, that's not the way I want to be treated in the relationship. Now, we've talked a lot about boundaries, but this is much more profound for me, what I'm experiencing in my personal relationships, than boundaries. It's actually saying, I want to be treated in a certain way in my relationships. I want to be talked to in a certain way in my relationships. And I want the same for the other person that I love in my relationships. It's this period, if we take advantage of that desire for us to really connect to the purpose of why we're having meaningful work or why we're having meaningful relationships, is actually to say, how would I want to be treated? It's actually a really important thing. So, for example, in my life, what's happening is that I get to these really intense emotions now, and I go into anger. But actually what comes out of my mouth is like, I don't want to be treated like that. You will not treat me that way. And I'm asking to be treated this way. So I'm discovering a new voice, which is actually quite empowering for me, about saying very clearly and assertively, not from a resentful place or from a defensive place, I won't be treated like this anymore. So I'm sort of sharing generally what's happening in my relationships. It's definitely happening in my most immediate relationship in my home life. And the conversations that's happening in my home life are actually really empowering, because we're redesigning how we're going to do our lives and how we're going to treat each other and talk to each other as well. And I've been able to say it very fast in the moment, which I've been working on that, as you know, Patti, with boundaries for quite a long time. But it's not coming from a mental place. It's coming from a really embodied place. And that's the new energy that I'm discovering. And it's also going to start showing me there's other ways I can ask for things in my work life as well, saying, okay, this is the expectation. If you can't give it to me, that's fine. I'm just going to have to go somewhere else. And I wonder if you could share, Patti, also what your experience might be about how you can see this pattern of withdrawal or quitting, and how what you've discovered in your life?
So when you notice that you start beginning your day, it's okay, say it's Sunday night and you're like, oh no, I got to go to work tomorrow. Or, oh no, I got to meet with somebody that you're not really wanting to meet with, right? And you start going through these thoughts in your head and you're spinning. And then you realize, well, I don't want to do it, or I'm not going to do it. And then you force yourself to go, but you're not really there to try to make a difference or fix the relationship or say what's really going on with you. Those are some signs that maybe I need to reflect and communicate better of what I'm feeling, or why am I feeling this way. Those are signs recognizing, oh, I'm really not wanting to address things. You may say to your partner, I'm just tired, instead of actually talking about what is really bothering you. Or you may be sitting on the couch and they're sitting on the couch and you're both looking at your phone for hours, but not even looking at each other. Or you may just go to bed and not even say goodnight and go to sleep without saying goodnight to your partner. Those are things that you might want to look at and think, what's going on here? Am I silently checking out of the relationship? Am I silently checking out of my work responsibilities and relationships? Those are some signs that you may see within yourself.
That's great. Yeah, I like that. The question that came up for me is like, why are you feeling the way that you're feeling, rather than just staying in the feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Asking yourself, why am I feeling this way? So that's a really powerful question, Patti, to help people just look at the feeling rather than just stay in the stagnated, passive, avoidant or conflict avoidant, or even just not having the conversation.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful to me. I think now I could ask that every time I don't want to have a conversation. I could ask myself, well, why am I feeling that way? What's
Mm-hmm.
behind that feeling I can't speak up? I think that's very powerful. So we're going to share now some other tips about how to re-engage. I think that was a really, really good one that we just shared about how to re-engage with when you are in that silently quitting phase and you're just thinking of avoiding the whole situation. Patti, do you want to share what some of the strategies or other tips on how to re-engage?
Think about how you can show up, and when you're not showing up, what is that doing to your relationships, whether it's at work or at home, by not showing up and being there fully and engaged? I think that's an important thing, is what your actions are doing that is affecting others and yourself. That's the most important thing. Just really looking at what is going on with you and yourself, and what can you do to make it better? Do you need to talk to somebody? Do you need to set boundaries? Are you feeling overwhelmed, under supported? What's triggering this to make you feel like hopelessness? I want to say, Angela, because sometimes when you're silently quitting, it feels like hopelessness. Sometimes you don't know how to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
So, So how can you do that? For me, I would use affirmations to help me, on the way to work. I would say affirmations to get me, in a more positive light of, okay, let me find some affirmations that can help me show up and be supportive and happy and doing my job to the fullest. Those are some things that you can also do. Sit down and talk to people about what's kind of going on, if that's possible. Talk to a coach, right? Talk to
That's a job that we're doing. That's how we can support as well. And especially if you are feeling overwhelmed or under-supported, coaches like Patti and myself, that's what we do. So I do actually have a special offer for our podcast listeners as well. And this session work that I do is tailored to your specific needs. So if anything resonated with you about, why am I here in this relationship, going through the motions, sometimes you need that extra support to understand the purpose of the relationship and specifically the stories that you've made up about the relationship. It should be something else than what it is. Relationships are always going to challenge you. So that's my strength, is understanding what the purpose of that challenge, that current challenge, or it might be 20 years of the same challenge, what that's here for in your life to help you move through a deeper connection to yourself and also your inner hurts, any hurts from the past that might still be needing to get your awareness. Silent quitting can be something we're doing to avoid those. So if that resonates with you, check out the special that I have on offer in the link in the description. And also, if you want to look at any other ways to re-engage, you can look at any other support tools that Patti and I have in the different podcast episodes as well. So, Patti, is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up?
Yeah. It's real important that you really reflect within and also take steps to make a difference in how you're feeling by silently quitting. And is there something that you need to do differently? Maybe have a plan. If this isn't the place that you want to be, where do you want to be? And make steps towards doing that. A coach like Angela and I can help you find what steps to help you move on so that you're not silently quitting, but that you actually have a purpose and know what you want to do in life.
Thank you. That sounds great. So we just also want to encourage you as well to engage with yourself. And if we can support you in that journey, you can always contact us. And we really thank you so much today for watching and listening. And we really appreciate you. Any comments or questions or any other topics that you'd love us to address, please let us know. So thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you all the best in engaging with your life, regardless of what the other media might be telling you. There's so much to explore inside of you, and we'd love to support you in that journey. Thank you, Patti. Thanks so much for today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Angela.